Hello, we are live with Entertain Live. Thanks for joining us. We have today on here Warren Whitlock. I'm pleased to introduce, who is an acclaimed author and speaker and strategist. He wrote the book about Twitter and mobile marketing and profitable social media business results without playing games. This is a great pleasure to have you on here, Warren, and I would love to have you share anything else that I might have missed in your bio there that the audience would like to know.
Well, my current bio, if I was to change it, which it's my fault because I didn't tell you anything else. The current bio is I'm a blockchain guy who feels that that's the solution to all the world's problems. I think in moving forward, there is so much progress, so much technology, so many good ideas coming to bear that we're going to just enter an age of abundance that I'm so excited about it. I can't say the word. An age of abundance unlike anything we can imagine. It's safe to say the next 10 years will have more change than the last 100. There's a lot of things to worry about, a lot of places where it can go wrong. The big one being what happens if the robots take over and kill us all. Well, I don't worry about that. If that happens, we're all gone. Right. But and of course, plenty of people worry about keeping that from happening. But let's talk about all the good things that are happening. Artificial intelligence, nanotechnology, where literally we're talking about getting 10 cars out of what was one car, and every one of them will be lighter, stronger, faster, cheaper. Carbon nanotube and that kind of technology is just, it's applied, what do they call that? Atomically precise manufacturing, APM. And if you haven't checked that out, that's fantastic. However, the biggest problem we have in technology as a society is getting it to everyone equally as fast as possible. And there's a lot of disenfranchised people and things to worry about there. I see a lot of blockage coming from institutions, or we have always done it this way, or it wasn't invented here, that kind of thinking. And I've always felt that way, but especially today when we look at things like a stock market where we still pay brokers to make transactions when we know it's a push of a button. Money transfer from here to Zimbabwe going to cost you 20%. Why? It only takes pushing a button. It's like sending PayPal, but there's a lot of places in the world where that's a problem. Banking for the unbanked, bringing everybody online for everything that can happen. And everything is data, and it's best stored in the blockchain. And so this goes way beyond crypto. I mean, today we're all excited about crypto, Bitcoin's come along, but I look at how the world's going to change because of blockchain. And so that's what I love to talk about.
Awesome. And it sounds like you're echoing a lot of the thoughts that we've heard expressed here on Entertain Live and in all the live workshops and events that we've attended. And that's why I'm so excited to have you on here. So one of the things that I find you're saying that's really important, that I feel like I don't want to say have accomplished, because it's always a journey, right? You are accomplishing, that I'm hoping to inspire others to do, is you're influencing people. You're helping change people's minds. You're getting platforms for these ideas that you're talking about and we're talking about, but a lot of people are listening to you. So share with me, how did that happen? How did you become influential? And
it is the question. And I maintain that we're all influential. We all choose to do things, and that affects the lives of others around us. We do things on purpose to affect the lives of people around. And sometimes we become a paid shill. We do whatever we can to push something. I usually function in the last of that. I'll take the payment, whatever it is. I only talk about things I really care about, and the future in technology and improving lives. These are things I care passionately about. So it's very easy to talk about them. And in my lifetime, I've been through a lot of them. I was around when the first PCs came out. I happen to be the same age as Bill Gates and what Steve Jobs would be.
So do you see
And you
people
know, it's just
adapting and adopting? I mean, we see people have cell phones now, but do you see that learning curve occurring? Do you think it's
yeah.
happening?
Well, I'll tell you what's changed. Back then, it was like we got PCs. It took forever. I mean, you go back and you study phones and other things, but let's not go back that far.
Sure.
Let's just say this ones I've witnessed. PCs took a long time to adopt. There were people in the 90s telling me I'm never going to need a computer.
Right.
And I used to go, I belonged to a Rotary Club. I was in my 30s and was young, very young compared to a lot of the guys. And I just tell them, listen, you know what? And I was working on computers, so that lunch hour was not supposed to be me giving them computer advice. But I tell them, hey, you know, if you're not going to retire in the next 5 years, you need this. And then the retirees started asking me about things like I've got this orchard and my grandson's doing the accounting on it, and you think the Mac is a
right. Well, you know, you said something else.
I say you got to learn this because if you're going to be alive in 5 years, and then it became like if you haven't dropped dead already, you need a PC. Well, for me, that was a 15 to 20 year time period. With the internet, I was online in 1981. Actually, used something called the internet in 1984, but really kind of ignored it till 1994. And still, people call me a pioneer. And email, I was sending email in the 80s, but in the 90s, it became acceptable. In the aughts, it became a must-have. And now people go like, well, do you really need email? We've got WhatsApp, you know. And, you know,
I don't have WhatsApp.
You still need email. It's still the best. You know, it's got all its problems. I'm with you, and you complain about email, but bottom line, if you don't have an email account that functions, I'm proud to say, currently, as we speak, my inbox is empty, and it wasn't yesterday. It gets away from me sometimes. What gets away from me is having 20 or 30 that have been stored there for a while. And I'm working on a big project, and you know there were bits and pieces of, oh, I might need that. And I went and got organized yesterday and set myself back to what I need is an email address. If I get an email, I can see it within a few minutes, respond to it if necessary, get rid of the newsletters and the other things that come by email. They're all stored someplace else, and really use it like we use SMS or whatever. Mobile technology, for sure, it's been there. I was reading about cell phones in the early 80s, got one in the mid 80s, and thinking that, you know, everybody's got it by 2000. But no, until the smartphones came out, we really hadn't captured all that. And today there's more people with phones than there are connected to the internet.
Right.
And you know, and these phones all will accept a text message, and they'll make payments, and it's really helping some people in the third world.
As I like to tell
social media, same thing. I've been on since 2004 with LinkedIn. Got on Facebook as soon as they let the adults on, and you know, and Twitter was an early adopter of working with Facebook, and that's how I became interested in Twitter. So I got an account very early, but then it took about a year till I really got it and matched it with Facebook. Didn't use it as some kind of SEO tactic, and started talking to people, and I'm going like, wow, these are real people. I had a conversation with Guy Kawasaki. So, you know, I made sure my account had my real name, and a couple months later I go like, there's no books out. I'll write a book. It'll take 30 days. And so still today it's got, you know, a lot of value in that. If you forget the screenshots, because that's not what it was about. Twitter Revolution was about how the world was changing. And it's something that I think is going to take the whole century. Last century was all about pushing out a message. Can I get enough things out to enough people? You know, hey, I'm recording a podcast. Can I push it out to enough places? Today, it's about how many people can we serve? And so while I have 526,000 Twitter followers, what's important is how many I talk to. And they don't rate that too much because, you know, you can game that system. You can go say things like, hello, here you go. You can automate messages. You do all sorts of things.
So you're getting to something I really want you to touch on, because I like to say, you know, with this phone, we all have the power, at least the intellectual power, maybe the military power. Yeah, the intellectual power of the emperor in our hands. And what that's doing is, in my opinion, disrupting the valuation paradigm that we all live in. And you touched on that a little bit in two comments, one about abundance, and that we can recognize it if we learn to track it, and also in something that I relate to, in how many lunch hours and off hours at jobs have been spent doing something that had nothing to do with your regular job because you're helping people figure out how the computers work. And valuation, right? There's all kinds of value occurring in society all the time that we constantly overlook. And what I say is, we talk about helping the homeless. How about if we just figure out what they are or can be doing of value and value it accordingly?
Okay,
so can take us to another place.
I'll pop back to the guys talking to me about computers at the Rotary Club. We had a nifty thing. We had the best car show in Southern California for old classic cars. That is not the mission of a Rotary Club at all. These guys did it, and it was all about when I come to the trailer and work my shift making hamburgers. And yeah, I did. I got along with the group. But I always was thinking, like, is this my highest and best use? Shouldn't I be out in the crowd talking to people, meeting people, helping, introducing one person to another? And I would say I'm wired that way, but that's not true. I can be as shy as anybody. That I'm sure this has happened to you. You've gone to some kind of networking event and you got to the door, realized there was absolutely nobody there that you knew or thought you could possibly get to know, turned around and left. I've done that many times. I've done even many more is sign up to go to an event because I push myself to do this, sign up and then decide, I got to put on a better shirt and get in the car and drive 5 minutes. I can answer another 12 emails. I could talk to somebody on Twitter. And the truth is, it's better to get to those places and see people face to face. And that creates long-term value. What we're doing here, getting to know each other. Now I've got a friend. It doesn't mean anything's going to happen. So let me tell you about the networking principle that really makes all this work. Yeah, I know I'm all over the place, but this one's so good. I'm in the mood to share it. I read a book on connections. I believe it's called Connections several years ago. I've not been able to find reference to it, but the premise is that everything happens by connections. And if you, in all of human experience, and he went in and looked through a whole bunch of things. Number one being, who do we marry? We don't marry somebody at first level because, that's biology would be really messed up if you did marry your sister. But when you go out to your second level and their friends and actually look at how many people that is, that's a lot of people. Let's say 100 people and they know 100 people. That's 10,000 people. Somewhere in there is your mate. I didn't believe it at first. I ran into, I kept finding people that said, I married one of my best friend's sisters, whatever. Or somebody they introduced me to. You don't meet some random person at a bar. You meet somebody at a bar who happens to be a friend of your cousin. That's usually what ends up happening. And so I'm looking at it, and they're saying, bell curve, that there's 60% fit in for sure, 90% fit if you go one more layer out. And, there's always some outliers. And I met a couple they were in cities 500 miles apart, met online playing a multiplayer game, and then got together. And I go like, okay, great. You're one of those exceptions in the 2% or whatever. And then we stood there talking for a little while longer, and they connected and said, oh gosh, I did know your friend and he knew your friend, and in other words, they were only two levels apart, even in a long distance relationship like that. So that's the premise. Now you start looking at stuff like academic papers. When you write a paper, you want co-authors on it. I just read Einstein's biography, and good reading. Walter Isaacson. I love anything he does. Best Jobs book, the whole thing. But anyway, he told about how many times people would be coming to Einstein to want to get him to be co-author of the paper. Well, they'd done the research. They had the premise. They wanted Einstein's name on it so it would get published and people would know about it. And so if you start doing a chart of that, pretty soon you know that the reason Albert Einstein is famous, beyond the fact that he had that great work he did, and one of the other stories was it took forever for him to get a Pulitzer Prize for it, or whatever, no, Nobel Prize, sorry,
right.
wrong industry, get the Nobel Prize, you know, but it was like he was active, and in his later life, say in the 30s, 40s, 50s, he died the year I was born, you know, he was known for political stances, for talking about things, all sorts of stuff. You start looking at Einstein quotes, which, by the way, there's plenty of false ones out there, stuff attributed to Albert Einstein. But when you look at the ones he really said, wow, he talked about everything about life, right? And so then in the Senate, bills that are passed in the U.S. Senate, the top names of networking are the people that network the best. And number one was Edward Kennedy, dated study. And it dawned on me that the Bushes and the Kennedys don't know a lot of people because they're well known. They're well known because they know a lot of people. They got to where they are. That dynasty thing all happened. George W. Bush, the first one, the father, wrote a handwritten note to 5 people every day of his career. That's how he got things done. That's why he was always in the inner circles and got picked for those top jobs, and then vice president and ultimately president. And you know, and it's the same with the Clintons and the Bushes and the, you know, the whoever else there is. But I said Bushes twice, but Kennedy's the big one. Kennedys are everywhere, doing everything. They're for every cause, you know, and so networking's so important. And then, of course, the one I should lead with is, you know, pre-IMDb, it was a big challenge to try to figure out who was in a movie together. The Kevin Bacon effect. Turns out Kevin Bacon's about number 235 in the most connected people in Hollywood, or at least was when this thing was done. He's alive and picking up more. But, you know, whereas the people that were the most connected were like, people that were old and played a part when Kevin Bacon was very young. And so, you know, that connection, that's what helps Kevin Bacon do so well in the game. And it's not 6 degrees of separation. It's about 3. Again, the closer connection. So you take this networking theory and say, how does that affect life? And my favorite story is dysentery in Amazon tribes. Just before lunch here, but, you know, I'll talk about dysentery. They go into a tribe and they teach them about latrines. You know, dig a hole and people will live. And what happens is the amount of dysentery like nosedive, and then in some tribes it would start to come up after a few months. In other tribes it would stay down. What they found out was it had to do with the makeup of the tribe, of how much they stayed with each other. Those who interacted with the community more, the dysentery days stayed down because they were doing it for the good of the community. Those who were doing it for the good of family just made sure, like, you know, go in that field over there and it's, you know, it won't upset us. And something as life threatening as dysentery, these people that would do it. And then later we were writing a book called Billions Rising about the 3 billion people under $3 a day. And it turns out what they want is a hand up, not a handout. But that's another story for another day. And I met a guy who found out that he could sell water, and instead of giving it away, he could sell it to people in rural India by putting it in pink jerry cans with a logo on it, because then people could show their neighbors that they cared about their kids. Others had like built outhouses that nobody used. They used it for storage, taught them all sorts of things. And the kids run around barefoot and tracking into the house, and people get sick and they die.
Yeah.
And so to fix the water problem really took a social change. So this is all how important it is to connect with people.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, you hit a lot of good points there. education, is key, but also people aren't motivated to A, get educated, or B, apply that education if they don't have a real relationship anchoring it, right? Like you said, the families with the kids would take care of their family, but if they didn't have the connection with the neighbors or the community to feel, sort of take ownership, take responsibility along with the privilege of being part of a community, they couldn't make that connection of the need for that value.
It's what's wrong with politics, where people are out to get their own thing and dump on everybody else, or they go with the party instead of with what's best, and all these, and this whole idea of dichotomies. But this is not a political statement. This is a life statement.
Well,
when somebody tells you things are black and white, start looking for the gray.
Absolutely.
Things are not black and white. The Republicans and Democrats are 85, 90% exactly alike in what they want. And when you get down to what do people want for their families, we're all very much alike. There are a few weirdos out there and people doing, the school shootings or whatever. There's some real differing ideologies. But if you get down to it, if I can sit down with a guy who would be the kind of person would be either prejudiced against me or I might have prejudice against him, but if we sit down and have a conversation, we find commonality. And so that's why relationships are so important in everything.
Absolutely. The scary part to me is I see in every issue that we have we're so polarized on, the answer is in the gray, but the gray is not a combination of both sides of the solution. And everybody seems to think they have to do that. The reality is we all need to think in new ways.
I'll recommend one more book, Third Alternative by Stephen Covey.
Third Alternative.
Yeah, he's famous for the other stuff. His last book was called Third Alternative. Just saw this again on 60 Minutes recently. The guy who started a symphony in Palestine. He's a Jew, an Israeli living in Palestine. He became a Palestinian citizen, and I guess just to irk people, I don't know. And he has an orchestra, a symphony orchestra that is fantastic, that is made up in half and half. And those people, when they're playing their instruments, don't care about what the wall is and what policy is, and did they move the U.S. embassy and all the stuff that the media tries to get us hyped up about. Those, it's not that those issues aren't real. It's just that they're not as important as, can I shake your hand? Can we be friends? We break bread, and we come up with a solution that makes sense. And it's probably not the third alternative. It's probably the 10th or 12th. It might be the 100th alternative, but let's keep at it and find it. So what I've learned from social media is I was unleashed. I could start sending tweets as fast as I could think. Sometimes faster. Some go out without thinking, but carry on multiple conversations. And so it's funny, I'll be doing something that's considered not business or wasting time or attending an event or something. I get up to go to the event, and I went with my wife a couple of weeks ago, and she says, "Are you able to keep up with everything?" And I'm going like, "Yeah, didn't you see it? It's just on my laptop. I just did 200 messages this morning. We're waiting for a bus. I'm on my phone." And now a lot of those messages are, I get a lot of new followers, and they send me I get a notice, and I either say thank you or nothing, or So some of them are literally a second a piece. But yeah, I'm constantly connected with people. I will say the alternative of dropping everything and getting some work done is great. I'm not answering my phone while I'm talking to you. This is focus. This is important. There is other stuff on my computer screen. I'm trying to ignore it. Often I go full screen and, see you jumping around full screen, or just turn it off, because I really want to focus on, hello audience, I'm here for you. And the more I do that, the better things get. I'm currently doing almost nothing but that. And I'm accomplishing more than I ever have in my life. I'm having the best year ever. My companies I'm advising are all moving along. More people want me to do that. People are asking me to go do what I do rather than, hey, can you help us figure out why this DNS entry is wrong? And there's a bunch of stuff I know like that because I have a career in tech. I own a business repairing hardware. But, you know, it's like, no, I don't want to show you how to use your computer. I read, Alan Kay said this, a great innovative futurist kind of guy, one of the think tanks, Apple, I think. Xerox PARC, Apple, Disney, they all pay guys like, well, Disney actually. And he's the guy that designed what a laptop would look like many, you know, decades ago. Wow. And he said there will be more people using computers than building them. And it just like struck me. That's not exactly what he said. He says also about the phones. And it hit me that I was using a phone all the time. And while in my business, we occasionally had to wire phones and, you know, pull cable and do stuff like that. I had people that did that, but I knew about all of it. One of my proudest moments was we had people from 2 different phone companies and my head tech trying to work out how, and I had a guy on the phone trying to work out how to wire 8 wires together to make it work for a T1 line. And I'm going like, I saw something and I looked this up online last night. Couldn't look it up at that time because we had no internet service. And I said, well, I think if you swap pair, you know, the second and third pair, it should work. And they go like, well, why is that? And I'm thinking like, you're all experts at this. What is this?
Right.
So I stopped listening to it. We wired it and the thing worked. I was the guy that did stuff like that. I didn't necessarily know why, but I would read and get an answer. Of course, getting an answer on the internet is no big deal now. It was in the 90s.
So share with me how this is all this broad technology experience. Where did Bitcoin and blockchain pop onto your radar? And who was that relationship? There was somebody that made that happen for you.
Yeah. That's thank you for prompting me to talk about Michael Turpin and Coin Agenda. But Michael Turpin is a friend. He started something called MarketWire in LA years ago. Decided to move to Vegas where it's good tax treatment, moved up here, sold the company, and was doing PR. He's a PR guy. And so Transform PR, it's transform.pr, is the largest blockchain crypto PR agency. Wasn't always, it was always other stuff. I was involved in startups and what was going on with that. So I kept running into Michael at things. And one time I said, listen, I know you're doing all this stuff. You got clients doing mining and you do these showcases at CES or NAB and you're showing all these great new companies. But the mining, you know, I've done my tech stuff. I don't want to set up a computer in my garage and mine. Big mistake, by the way. But that was my attitude. And this was around 2012. And he said, well, you know, a lot else. And I said, well, let me get this straight. It sounds like I just was telling you, a lot more will be done on blockchain and Bitcoin than is ever done by the people that are mining it and promoting it. And he goes, yes. And it's not just the picks and shovels. He was in like mining equipment at the time. And then, yeah, that all makes sense. And then when writing Billions Rising, I found out about how hard it is to transfer money. Went to my first Money 2020 show, saw a guy talk about how the exchange rates were so usurious. I knew about people trying to get money, say, to Uganda. Single woman carrying $10,000 cash, boards a plane and flies to Uganda. Boy, I'm scared to do that. I'm not small and female. I mean, and it scares the heck out of me. I don't want to carry that much. I don't like carrying $100. So I got that credit card. And it turns out it's a big problem. Once the money gets there, they've got to exchange it. And then that's a problem. If you wire the money, it's a usurious rate that they charge. And so there are people trying to do it. We then hosted, oh gosh, what's that guy's name? Oh, I can't think of his name.
Is there a site I can pull up for Coin? Is it coinagenda.com?
Yeah. Halsey Miner came and talked to us. He has a company that was, he's the guy that started CNET. And he's got a company that moves money very easily. Oh, thanks. There you go. That's Coin Agenda. Yes, indeed. Yeah, and so Coin Agenda was started in 2014 to bring together investors and talk about crypto. It became a quote unquote blockchain conference last year as the whole world is going that direction. And so while the hot cryptos are nice, the long-term real money is going to be by people who know how to build something and use these things in their real businesses. And those are the kind of people that we're seeing getting funded and doing exciting new things. And basically, everything is going to be tokenized. Farm to table is a great one. I just talked to somebody about shrimp boats in the Gulf of Thailand, marking where they caught something. And you can tell when you eat that shrimp, the whole chain that it's been on. You may not want to know that, but what that does is allow for much more efficiency in the market. Talking to another guy about doing this with fish in Iceland, and he thinks it's going to double the amount of usable food we get from the harvest there. And so
that's really exciting stuff. I mean, I think farm to table is huge in Vermont, so we're really excited to look at those blockchain applications here.
Energy, rural energy, keeping track of real estate. I got one project I'm working on where we're going to be able to track what commercial property does with contracts. Not even talking about transfer of property, which is a whole thing by itself. I mean, if you've ever been to an escrow office for closing on a simple buy a condo, there's just so much paperwork, so many things that need to be done. And all of that is going to be moved to blockchain where it's, you agree to all the terms, put your thumbprint here, you're done. And all the little things like we sat here dreaming this up at an Einstein bagel. And we looked around at the center. It was walking distance from my house. And in Vegas, that's a big deal if you actually walk someplace. But I had managed to walk there that day, and we're sitting there talking about it. He's going like, well, how should we focus this? I said, well, let's take a look at this center. It had mixed use, offices, retail, and some of it said empty. It had been built during our big crash 10 years ago. So there's a couple of pads where there's rebar coming out of the ground. Talk about a liability. Who's responsible for that? Why weren't those pads ever finished? Well, nobody sold it. They're little tiny places that didn't get used. Maybe need to be turned into a dog area or something, or kids play equipment. Kids and dogs. There, I've just equated kids and dogs. Good for me. But anyway, there's an on-site property manager. There's a lot of people doing things. But then I looked over at the light fixture and I said, who owns that light fixture? Does Einstein Bagel own it and they come in and it's a tenant thing or whatever? Maybe not the light bulbs, although I wonder, but every little thing in there could have a serial number and a trace back to its origin and find out what's happening. I started thinking about just in time when I first studied that, and they started talking about how long it takes from when they harvest the stuff they make aluminum out of in a mine, all the way till it becomes a can and then gets recycled. And how that all comes into buying a 6-pack of soda, which is a time frame of about 350 days. And we don't need to shorten that. You don't need to mine the aluminum stuff and then drink a soda the next day. But there are a bunch of parts of it where there's a lot of inefficiency, friction, as I talked about before. And so we see that we focused on easements. We see just the easements on a property deal. You've got a $100 million property, $1 billion portfolio, and growth is whether or not you can add one more or two more next year. And if you spend 3 weeks dealing with some stupid easement at one of your properties, that's one less property you acquire. You can put this stuff in. If you don't close a deal and it falls apart, it can cost millions of dollars. And so that's what we're focused on. And then the next time we had a meeting on it, our next meeting is today, but until today, the next one that we had some time ago, I've been thinking about this, is that we started talking about when we focus on this, we get this app out, or you got a mobile app, and I can hold up the phone and say, hey, that property there's got this thing and these problems, and who owned it and who used to own it and what liens are there and what liens have been cleared. It's all in there, giving you a green light or a red light as you just drive by the property. Obviously, your own property. You wouldn't, there'd be some security to this. But it's all on a blockchain, immutable record, smart contract. And the big thing that comes up is the immense amount of work that it's going to take to switch to that. So if you're doing anything revolving around the tech or investment in blockchain or conversion of old ways of doing things, disintermediation, there's plenty of work over the next 10 years. And then at some point, we basically all will work a lot less hours, have a lot of stuff automated, abundance will come. To me, the end game of capitalism is that we feed everyone on the planet. Everyone can do whatever they want with their time, regardless of whether or not they choose to go to a job. And jobs kind of go away. And the real problem we have to deal with between now and then is the neo-Luddites who decide, no, wait a minute, we've got to hold on. We need to do things like we used to. And there's plenty of them. We have the upper hand because we have technology, and throughout history, wars were won by the people with the better technology. But, I don't want it to come to bloodshed. So well, that's another thing I care deeply about. But my focus is on let's get rid of the friction, and hopefully we'll have some time to take care of the people that feel left out, because everybody can be included.
We can still build systemic cultural communities into everything. I mean, we have indigenous tribes in places around the world. We have the Amish in Pennsylvania and wherever else they are around the United States.
Oh, yeah.
There's a place for these communities, and it's just a matter of...
Yesterday, I talked to somebody who's doing an energy token, and they've created this token. There's no ICO. They're not raising money. We just happened to get on the phone together for a few minutes, and he said they were making deals with other people doing that. And I'm thinking, like, it's a decentralized energy distribution connecting with other decentralized energy. So yes, you're right. We have to have some sort of society, civilization, but it isn't going to be dictated by Washington, D.C. or Wall Street or, the big financial centers. It's not going to be the people with the biggest army, because
dictated by consensus. Well, the biggest Twitter army, maybe.
Well, trade stops. No, because that's not a war. Trade stops.
Fair enough. Thank you.
War stops when trade begins. You can't have both at the same time. You destroy a country like what I see of Syria. I don't know. I've not been to Syria, but what I see is there's these cities that are just in total ruins as they're trying to get ISIS out, or ISIS was blowing them up, or things like that. I'm going like, boy, we just went too far, because those people still have to eat every day. I doubt they're getting a shoe shine, but or cleaning the car, but they do need to put petrol in the car. They do need to, service it when the brakes go out. And in those areas, new tires or something, if they have a car. And a lot of people lose their car. And then it's easy to see. We learned this about homelessness, by the way, when we're doing Billions Rising. We talked to Mark Horvath, who does something called Invisible People TV, who had been homeless, had been doing well. He was working in television in Southern California. And so when the 2008 crash came and he was going to lose the house, he goes, no big deal. I'm not going to fight it. I'm going to take what I can, go do that. Got himself a Pepsi grant, went out interviewing people. Man, is this guy a wealth of opportunity. Knows of these people, again, because he's been there, he's talked to them. He's not afraid to spend the night in a homeless shelter. I'd be. And less so than after meeting Mark. But and it's not like, oh, I want to help. Let me find a soup kitchen where I can hand out soup. Yeah, those kind of volunteers are needed, but infrastructure problems are there. An average family is just a couple of paychecks away from being put out on the street. You get put out on the street, you lose your car, you can't get to the job interview, so you can't get the job. All of a sudden, your world falls apart. There are people falling apart for want of a cell phone charger. And if I could help that person, I'd do it all day long. And people are working on systems. A woman named Rose Broom is just fanatical about it. Was just out of Berkeley when we met her in 2013. And her and her team were building a social media site for homeless people in the Bay Area. And I hear that at first, and I'm going like, yeah, only in the Bay Area do they think homeless people need, so, you know, and I'm just laughing. And then I heard her talk, and I'm going like, okay, Warren, you were an idiot, because that's where I got the cell phone story.
Well, Berkeley's doing the housing project, right? Is it the housing project at Berkeley? The housing project at Berkeley?
No, it's an online thing of I don't know what happened to that social.
There's a municipal project happening trying to solve homelessness and housing.
Right. So what happened to me just a week ago, I was at lunch in San Diego, you know, beautiful San Diego. And we get done, and the guy's talking about how it's his wife's birthday and he's taking her to dinner later. He's got to get going. And then he picks up the menu and orders 3 hamburgers. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, you got 3 kids. No. Out by my car is I saw three homeless kids, and I'm buying them a burger. I just can't bear to see them there on the street. Okay, fine. We go out. He hands the sack of burgers to the woman for her 3 kids, and she literally does not move, just holding it, does not say thank you, does not do anything, just goes. He says there's burgers in there. We go get in the car and drive off. I'm looking back. Nothing is happening. I told this to another San Diego friend the next day. He says that's because no one in San Diego has any problem eating. There's plenty of shelter. The problem there is something else. Right. We didn't take the time to find out. We didn't sit down and have a chat with them, get to know them. And, you know, but there's something else. And it's not just mental health or drug abuse. Right. What Mark told me was the drug abuse and alcoholism are somewhere near the same as the general population, higher in that they are in a crappy place in life, but not like, you know, 95%.
Right.
It's more
I think you could make a good point, and I want to kind of ask you to talk on this. And that is, you've touched on abundance, we've touched on tracking information and token economics. One of the things that I think is the core problem in all of this, and it's where I say, you know, between black and white, there's gray, but it's over on the side somewhere. And that is really the systemic problem of the obfuscation of value by the use of the US dollar pricing, or really any sort of centrally controlled pricing mechanism throughout any supply chain. Because every single time something changes hands, it's priced in dollars, and that price is based on an obfuscation of the real value, on information that one party has over the information another party has, as opposed to looking at the real value of the items, ingredients, work, and effort and energy that went into the production of those things. And that's where I start talking about this, and some people go, oh, that sounds like socialism.
No, right? Not at all.
I'm the guy talking about crypto and Bitcoin, and they're like, oh, you're the ultimate capitalist. You're just exploiting
the biggest problem with economics is it doesn't count anything that really matters.
Right.
Okay? Think about it. Those guys on Wall Street are buying up all the best, brightest minds, sharpest, degree getting people out of Harvard or wherever, and they are all in an industry that does not add value. Money does not add value. It used to be you needed to make a market and you trusted the banker to exchange my money for yours and backed by gold, and it mattered, right? What it's become is just who can put on the best song and dance, and what we see today is the tendency to the comical that happens with the daily tweets from on high, are making up stuff to just, it's theater. It's not what matters. That Robert Kennedy said, economics doesn't count the things that matter: health, family, love. These are things that you can't measure, and with money. Or as Gary Vaynerchuk says, what's the ROI on mom?
That's a great one. That's a great one.
The most important person in your life, your mother gave you birth, and what are you going to pay her? And it reminds me of the Thanksgiving dinner story that behavioral economics talk about. You go to Thanksgiving, you get done with the dinner, you say, "Gosh, Mom, that was a great meal," and let's make it your mother-in-law to just really put it out there. Great, thanks, Mom, great meal. How much do I owe you?
Well, that's a great point.
So in trouble because you're mixing social with economics, and so I'd beware of all those things that say, well, we're going to do something, and finally you're going to get rewarded for your time on Facebook, or we've got a different social site, we're going to pay people for their time. I see a couple I like. I like the one that pays you to watch videos, and then if it's a movie trailer, you can click a button and spend your credits back to watch the whole movie. I like mostly because wouldn't it be great to be able to watch a movie as soon as the trailers come out, instead of having to wait till it goes into theater and so many months into distribution and then released and is it on pay TV? You know, and I want that all to be, let's knock it over and try a different way. Can I produce something? Can I use tokens to produce the best script, best actors, best director? They go out and make us something, you know, and it's what Netflix is doing. They, you know, they saw Kevin Spacey. The data said he was trusted to do something right. The people that worked with him, the production company, they took a great idea, which was a show from the BBC, where, you know, a lot of the great ones come from, right, and said, here, go do it. And they didn't like test it. They didn't put people in rooms with buzzers as to, at which point, do you like when Kevin Spacey turns to the screen and talks to him? Of course we like it. It's Kevin Spacey. He's doing a great job with it. And blah, blah, blah. He makes the whole thing. They wrote a check for $100 million, bought 2 seasons of that show before it started. That's why it's great, because people great at it were funded to do great things. You know, I'm oversimplifying, but
but we need more of that in the market.
And I think we're going to see a lot more of that in the future, where we're voting on things. But, you know, this whole idea of we need to boycott anybody that doesn't blah, blah, blah doesn't work the same way. Or we're going to pay you to do what you normally. That works for some people. It's why we have MLMs and, you know, and how to get rich in real estate seminar. There are people out there trying to make more money, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that the bulk of us want to do something because it affects our family. It's weird. I get done on some high-level meeting. You know, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get on the phone. I'm going to make this kind of thing. And then I got to go get groceries.
Right.
I don't get groceries because they can't be got without me. I go get groceries because my wife wants me to go get groceries. And, you know, we're all human beings.
Thing in the world.
Yeah. And those things matter. They matter more than how much money you have. I've been broke and I've been poor. And, wait a minute. I've been rich and I've been poor is how the saying goes. I've been broke too. Actually, I've been broke and rich at the same time. Plenty of income coming in, plenty of things to do, but I can't put together the money I need to get something done. It's all frozen or whatever. And that's broke. And but I've also been poor where I'm not sure whether I'm going to make it. And you know, and just knowing that if I keep working, it's going to go. It's some good motivation. But really, end of the day, I got to sit down with the family and eat dinner. You know, it's not about. It's not just about, can I work a little bit more? Can I do more? I think as entrepreneurs, we forget that. There's this myth that, you know, the 199-hour week is the key to success. We've got great technology. You can get a whole lot done without doing a whole lot. In investing, you know, definitely you don't have to be a trader to invest. You know, put your money in a basket, watch it very closely. Why not invest in something you know? Why not help it? That's what I do now. You know, I get paid when the companies I'm advising do well, and I'm going to do everything in my power to do that. And sometimes I think I care more about their success than they do. And I think that's the future. It's how movies have been made for years. And I think all companies will be like that. Now, you know, the credits are on the movie at the end. It's in the IMDb. You can find out who did the catering on that show. And by the way, now that you know this, start watching in the credits of movies. You'll find out that some of your favorite movies have not just the same actors, writers, and directors. They also have the same craft service people and the same casting director is a great one. And yeah, they all give each other awards for that. But what it is, it's a team that's stuck together, not because of the not because of a contract, the clauses that they had to do it. Because you can end a movie, you wrap the movie, a bunch of people are instantly unemployed, and it works. And we can do projects like that and make the world a better place. And so for the foreseeable future, that's what we're doing. We'll reach a point where we just sit around and the robots do everything for us, maybe, but that's a ways off.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. Fair enough. Well, I think that's a great note to leave this off on. I want to thank you so much for joining us today, Warren. Hang on for a couple minutes. We'll chat when we disconnect here. I want to thank everybody in our audience for paying attention to the future, to emerging technologies and Interchain Live. And look for Warren Whitlock on LinkedIn or Twitter. And check out Coin Agenda and the events they have coming up. And also keep an eye out for Vermont Blockchain Summit or FinTech Summit coming up soon as well. So thanks again and have a great day.